Hey there, this is Mercedes from the White Swan and Kittie, and you are listening to Thunder Underground.
Welcome to episode 291 of the Thunder Underground podcast. Trent and Jason here as always, and this week we've got a fun one because we've got Mercedes Lander joining us. Mercedes has a great newer band called the White Swan, and of course she's the drummer for Kittie as well. And we talk about both those things and some other stuff as well coming up. We've also got some new music that's great. Going to talk about some other stuff. But first up, we need to mention that since the last time we talked to you, we lost one of the greatest icons of rock and roll history.
Exactly.
And, usually when that happens, we'll talk about it for a bit, whether it be a few minutes or in the cases like Lemmy or Chris Cornell or Neil Peart, 15, 20 minutes. But with Eddie, we're like, this guy's so important to not just us, but to rock and roll and, in general, that we're dedicating an entire episode to it.
Right. Rock and roll needs Eddie Van Halen like I need beer.
Right.
So that's how important of a loss this is.
Yes. That's just our way of telling you we're not going to go into great detail here. Of course, like everybody else, we're extremely sad. We've both been lifelong fans of that band since we were kids. And we'll be talking about all that. And on our tribute episode, it won't just be Jason and I rambling for an hour. We're going to have a lot of special guests. And these are all guests that, so far, everyone we've talked to has either been on this podcast before or we recorded an interview in the past week, so we got some audio from him there. So everything's been recorded since the passing of Eddie. It's not old clips or anything. We can confirm we've got Paige Hamilton from Helmet, Mike Spreitzer from Devil Driver, Mark Slaughter from Slaughter, and Vinnie Vincent Invasion, Mitch Perry from the Mitch Perry Group, and Steeler and Talus.
Lita Ford.
Yeah, can't forget that. We have Mike Ariza from Healing the Fray and Frank Hannon Band. We have Damon Johnson, the mighty Damon Johnson from Brother Kane, Thin Lizzy, Black Star Riders, Alice Cooper.
And Damon Johnson in the Get Ready.
Yes, his project going on right now. We've got Tyler Bryant of Tyler Bryant and the Shakedown. We've got Chris Heinlein, phenomenal guitarist from the Midnight Devils and 3D in Your Face. C.J. McClellan from Grind, another person who's heavily influenced by Eddie Van Halen. I think that covers everything we've recorded so far.
You said Tony Asta from...
Oh, that's right.
Battlecross.
Yeah, from Battlecross. That one's great. And then there might be something I'm forgetting. We've got a few more here planned, but regardless, this will be a good lengthy episode with not just our opinions, but a lot of other well-respected musicians' opinions.
It's going to be a great one. Well worth the wait.
Yeah. So the plan is to have that out. That'll be the next episode, so it should be probably Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 292. So be on the lookout for that. And of course, we'll be posting it all over the place. More on Eddie Van Halen coming soon. But in the meantime, gotta let you know our sponsors. Med Farm is a dispensary located in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma at 24683 East Highway 51. You can check out their entire selection at leafly.com. Follow them on all their socials. They're on Facebook, MedFarm, that's PHARM, and Instagram at MedFarmOK. They're always running specials on there. They also have an ongoing special where if you mention our name, if you say you heard about them on Thunder Underground, they'll give you 10% off your first order. And you might be like, why should I go clear to Broken Arrow if I live in Tulsa? It's 15 minutes away and there's a dispensary 2.5 seconds from my house. Well, that dispensary 2.5 seconds from your house does not give 30% of their proceeds to build no-kill animal shelters. And that's what MedFarm does. Cannabis with a cause. Nearly a third of their profits are going to build no-kill animal shelters. And they offer the convenience of a drive-thru. All you got to do is call ahead or text ahead. Place your order and just zip right through there and get it and get out of there. So huge thank you to MedFarm for everything they do. Next up, we've got Sunset Tattoo. Tattoo shop in Tulsa at 3415 East 15th Street. Right in the heart of Midtown. Their tattoos are done good and proper. They're state licensed, and they are mother approved. Jake Thompson and his crew have over 25 years of experience. They've done a lot of great work, and you can see all the photos at Sunset Tattoo Tulsa on Instagram, and the same thing on Facebook, Sunset Tattoo Tulsa. So shoot them an email, give them a call, set up a time to get in there and talk about what work you need to be done, and check out all their photos so you know that we're not just BSing you on the great work they do. We've also got Hella Hot Sauce. Hot sauce company based out of the San Francisco Bay Area. They're a mom and pop style operation. They make small batch artisan hot sauces. They do collaborations with some metal artists. They've got a sauce called Brain Jerk from the band Ghoul, who's been on this podcast before. And they've also got a collaboration with Frank Novanek from Hatebreed called Florida Frank's Florida Heat. We've also got a lot of that they sent over, and it'll clean your insides out.
Oh, man.
But it tastes great while you're doing it. So
yeah,
that's
talk about a cherry red beehole. Watch out.
I think that's a good, that's a clip that Frank should start using in his promo for this, right?
Well, I'm telling you.
Right. HellaHotHotSauce.com is where you can check all their stuff out, pick up some of those sauces. If you're on the West Coast, they're in stores out there as well. So follow them on Facebook and Instagram and tell them we sent you. Finally, we've got DEB Concerts, a promoter based right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They've brought a plethora of amazing acts to the Ideal Ballroom and to downtown Tulsa at the BOK Center. They also book the Roadhouse stage at Rocklahoma. So in September of 2021, when Rocklahoma is rolling around, we'll talk about the acts they've got coming there. But in the meantime, October 23rd, that would be next. I should have looked at my calendar. Is that next Friday? Or 2 Fridays from now? No, that's actually next Friday. John Karabi will be at the Ideal Ballroom doing an acoustic performance. This will be socially distanced. The Ideal Ballroom, I can promise you, is safer than most venues in this country, not just this town. They're an exceptional venue. It has a lot of great measures in place. Rocket Science, an amazing band out of Tulsa, will be opening that show. So get on debconcerts.com to ticket info and also be kept up to date on any other shows like Poison. They got postponed. Once they have rescheduled dates, of course, we'll let you know as well. Follow them on Facebook as well and tell them Thunder Underground sent you. First up, we've got the last couple episodes we talked about AC/DC. First up, we talked about the fact that they made a post, basically.
Holy shit, yeah. AC/DC made a post. Stop the presses.
Because that's the truth. You know, you stop the presses because they don't make posts. And then second off, then the next week we got to talk about the fact that they released a teaser for their song, Shot in the Dark. Mm-hmm. And then by the time we released that episode, the song came out last Wednesday, I believe. We got Shot in the Dark in its entirety, which is pretty short. I mean, it's not like AC/DC's putting out 7-minute long songs, but
no.
You know, they're usually a good 4 minutes, and this felt pretty short. You know, it felt like an early, maybe AC/DC song, 3 minutes, right on the dot almost, I think. Maybe 3 something. But regardless, my first takeaway from when I heard it is like you mentioned on the last episode, even if AC/DC is like, what's the right word, like not up to their standard, they're still above most people's standards.
Right.
And you're always pumped to hear new music. And I'm not saying that about this song. I dig this song. It's great. It's very reminiscent of Giving the Dog a Bone. But with many AC/DC songs, you could think, I kind of recognize a riff or a melody here that's similar to something else. But that's the charm of AC/DC, right? I mean, it's fucking, you know what you're getting. And they always deliver well-written songs, even if it sounds like something they've been doing forever. It's fine, you know.
It's like Vince Vaughn said in Wedding Crashers. It's like pizza, baby. Even when it's bad, it's good.
Right.
And I mean, but I agree, this is not a bad AC/DC song. I don't know that there is a bad. Anyways, you know what the fuck I'm trying to say. This is a great song, though. This has got that pump and that injection of just, you know, fucking hard-edged hard rock that we have come to love from AC/DC. The song is no different, and, you know, it gives you those feelings that you get when you hear. It's just, it's like a warm blanket. It's always there for you, and it always does its job.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I love the riff. It's got a beat, the groove. It's all there. We know it. We love it. And, it's a tried and true formula from these guys.
Yeah. Yeah, they announced that the album Power Up is coming out November 13th. So we're literally right about a month away from this thing. That's pretty quick these days.
Yeah.
Usually you get an announcement way ahead of time on an album coming out, but this is AC/DC, like we said.
Yeah.
They make announcements when they feel like it because they're AC/DC. Here you go. I mean, the album's been done, like you mentioned last time, like for quite a while.
Yeah, and so,
But,
I mean, they're ready.
Yeah.
And who knows what the next year brings. So I guess they're just like, fuck it, get it out.
Yeah. They're the type of band that doesn't need to tour to promote an album or need an album out to promote a tour either way.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to buy that album that are AC/DC fans, and people are going to go to an AC/DC show when it happens.
Of
so
course.
They're kind of in a better position than most bands are when it comes to trying to figure out how to navigate the pandemic.
Exactly.
Like we both said last time, we're always pumped about new music from AC/DC because especially as the years go by, they're few and far between. But after hearing Shot in the Dark, I'm even more pumped than I was before hearing it.
Yeah. Oh, it'll be great. It'll be great.
Yeah. Yeah, something tells me after hearing Shot in the Dark, we're going to get a short, concise 10-song, 40-minute album, which is, perfect for AC/DC.
Exactly. Yeah,
So
you're right.
So I'm sure on our episode that comes out, the first episode that comes out after November 13th, you're going to be hearing us talk about those songs. So
Exactly.
be on the lookout for that. Speaking of November 13th, another album that comes out that day is a band that, on the opposite end of AC/DC, they're brand new, called Enigma Experience. They have their debut album is called Question Mark, and their first single, we're going to play it for you right now. This band's out of Sweden, Enigma Experience. This song is called Lone Wolf. Wolf, the first single from Enigma Experience off their debut album, that comes out in about a month, November 13th. The band's out of Sweden, and it features Nicholas, the guitarist from Truck Fighters. We actually had Oscar from Truck Fighters on this podcast a couple years ago. And it's a great band who, outside of, at least in America, I think has never got the due they deserve.
Mm-hmm.
And now that they've been on a break, Nicholas has a new band. The drummer is also a former member of Truck Fighters. It's a 3-piece. And the vocalist, man, that dude's got some power in his voice, that's for sure.
Sure does, man.
He's got the Cornell vibes going. This, of course, Nicholas has the fuzzy tones going like he does with Truck Fighters.
Mm-hmm.
You get a great combination when you put those things together, and this song's fucking slamming. I can't wait to hear this full album. Something tells me this is going to be one of those ones that kind of sneaks out of nowhere, and I'm like, this is on my top list of 2019. God, I wish it was, huh?
Yeah, you're just wishful thinking.
Let's go back in time and change history, Take that bat and don't fuck it like Randy did on South Park. But anyway, that makes no sense if you haven't seen that new South Park. So, but that was a weird tangent. It's back to Enigma Experience. Get on Facebook and give these guys a follow. Be looking for this new album from this great new Swedish trio that'll be coming out in November. And they just proved that every time you hear music from a band out of Sweden, it's never subpar, that's for sure.
Yeah, they're not messing around.
Right. All right, is there anything else we want to talk about before we get into the heart of this episode?
I think we're good.
All right. Mercedes Lander is the vocalist, guitarist, and keyboardist, actually, for the White Swan, which is also a 3-piece. But, I believe they recorded as a 3-piece, but when they play live, I believe they're a 4-piece. But, she's doing, I watched some live videos, and she would do those things like you would see guys like, we mentioned Van Halen or Geddy Lee, where you're doing like 3 things at once, play guitar and then start playing keyboard and then start singing, and
yeah,
it's impressive to me. I mean, I don't do any of those things. It's impressive that anyone could do more than 2 of those things at once,
Yeah.
New EP came out here about a month and a half ago. I listened to it obviously before I talked to her, and I was really like blown away by how much I like this. It's really great, kind of atmospheric doom metal. If you're a fan of Kittie and you haven't heard the White Swan, it's nothing like Kittie, which I always love it whenever artists have projects that are not on the same fucking ballpark, so definitely check this out. If all you're familiar with is Kittie, and even if you're not, if you just listen to us because you like podcasts, check this out because, it's great music. That's all that matters. So let's get into this. Here's Mercedes Lander from the White Swan and Kittie. Nocturnal Transmission came out this past week. How's it feel to get some new music out there after a couple years?
To be honest with you, I'm so happy that we finally could release that record. It was about time we sat on it for a little bit because, the world's a little bit on the crazy side right now. So, it actually was recorded in December of last year. And then we by the time we got the record back, everything started getting a little crazy. And we sat on it for a little bit. And then, we just made the collective decision to try and release it and just see what happens. And so far, everything has been amazing.
Like great response from fans and everything?
Yeah, everybody seems to be really enjoying it. And the fact that, nobody's able to go to live shows hasn't really affected us that much, which is kind of nice. I mean, we're all really missing playing live and missing seeing the people in a live setting. But yeah, it's definitely been pretty cool so far.
What was the choice to delay it? Like
from the distributor, or was it like you guys, or like how did that play out? Because I've heard people say they wanted to wait, through this to put out music, and other people say it's the perfect time to release music when there's nothing going on.
Well, so we weren't, as the rest of the world, we weren't sure how long this was going to last, like coronavirus and us being in lockdown and stuff like that. We weren't really sure what was going on and how that was going to affect us creating like physical copies, if that makes sense.
Right.
So, because I know that a lot of the record plants shut down during the early stages of the pandemic. So it took a little bit of time, but we ended up finding a record plant that wasn't completely backed up and was open and functioning, which was super cool. So we pressed that vinyl, but we were, we sat on it for a little bit because, we weren't really sure, A, how long this was going to last for, and B, because, I don't recall anything ever happening like this before. So I'm pretty sure we're just kind of like, well, we don't really know what's going to happen. But I did notice that a couple bands just pushed on with their releases and did really well. So I was like, you know what, let's just do it and maybe it'll work out. And it seemed to work out so far.
Well, you mentioned, not being able to play live shows. And do you think not being able to tour off the record or the EP is like a hindrance at all? Because, that's normally how, bands promote, especially this day and age.
Yeah. So it's hard because you don't really know, but that's what we're used to. By now, since the record's been out for like a week or however long, normally by now we'd have played a bunch of shows leading up to the release and had a nice release show and everything like that. And playing live and playing in different cities and stuff like that helps to build your audience. So, we might not be fully, using our potential in getting like a newer, fresh audience, but I think so far so good with everything else. Like I think everybody knows that the record's out, and the people that, are fans of the White Swan know. So that's probably the most important people to take care of first. And, if other people find out about the band, that's pretty awesome as well.
Well, I'm assuming once it's a possibility, you guys expect to tour off this EP?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We'll definitely be playing shows, but again, it's like, who knows when that's going to happen, right?
Right.
And like, a lot of the venues, especially here, and I know that there's like a big list of venues in the US that are closed. I saw the list, I think it was yesterday. It's just the closures are staggering. It's crazy. I feel like entertainment and live music is probably going to suffer a lot, but hopefully, with time, things will start to, improve, and venues will start to open back up and stuff. And I guess you just have to stay positive.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hoping that there would be a renewed interest in, shows, especially on like the local or the smaller level, that people will be getting back out there more once that's a possibility in the next year or two.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. Like, I feel like because we've been cooped up for so long and not able to actually go and not be able to play shows. And I think that once it's actually able to happen, I feel like there's going to be a nice resurgence in live music, which will be nice for people in bands.
So this is your guys', what is it, third or fourth EP?
Fourth, yeah.
Is this like the way you guys plan to continually do it, or are you ever looking in the future at doing a full length?
The thing with a full length is like it takes time, and I feel like the format that we've been using, so releasing EPs 3-4 songs at a time, has really worked for us because we can release music regularly and not have to sit there and like write 12 songs and then put those 12 songs out and then have to follow up with another 12 songs. That stuff takes time, right? So if you do it 3-4 songs at a time, it's kind of less that you have to focus on, and you get to really pay attention more to like the craft, like your songwriting, and really put the effort into that, and then and make sure everything's kind of perfect on that end. And then, you can release stuff once or twice a year, which is kind of nice.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to say this. I notice it very slightly, but I notice elements, whether it be the keyboards or your lyrical content, that kind of remind me of Typo Negative at times. Are they an influence of you at all?
I love Typo Negative, and I have since I was super young. They're like one of my... definitely one of my special 90s bands.
Yeah.
I loved that band when I was younger. Also, Peter Steele is pretty amazing. But I wouldn't, I mean, I can understand, like, I wouldn't necessarily call Typo Negative like an influence, but they're definitely a band that I love a lot. Like, I wouldn't ever want to try and sound like Peter Steele.
Right.
But I agree that like they have a lot of the same elements as us.
Yeah.
Definitely some fuzzy guitars and keys, which I feel like isn't really like a whole lot of a thing in this genre of music, but definitely us and Typo and a couple other bands kind of utilize that, which is kind of cool.
Right.
So.
I know with Kittie, you guys explored a lot of different genres of metal. With the White Swan, it's, even another genre. Is that something you think with White Swan throughout the years you might continually evolve, or is it more just kind of in the vein you guys have been in, you think?
I don't know. We'll see what happens when we get there, It just depends on how I'm feeling. Really, that's what it comes down to. It's like, what do I want to write, And I don't think we've ever like really been like, oh, let's stay in this one genre. I don't really, I'm not a really big fan of, labeling music and pigeonholing bands,
right.
In general. I just feel like for somebody that, that writes music, it's like, what does it matter? You don't have to stick to one thing, right? And you shouldn't have to stick to a certain thing. If you want to write a bossa nova groove, then go do that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Just like, you should be able to do whatever you want. And I feel like labeling music just breeds elitism. And that's not, I just feel like music shouldn't be about that.
Right. You have obviously spent the early part of your career drumming. Like when you first stepped on stage, basically as the front woman, was it daunting
weird?
To you, or was it, how did that experience go?
It is weird.
Yeah.
Super weird. I had to, before we even played our first live show, because I wasn't sure initially what I was going to do in the band. Because, singing and playing guitar was something that I'd never really done before. Like, I obviously have done those separately, but doing it at the same time is a little hard. And then, I was like, well, I could play drums, but I don't think I would be able to give a good vocal performance while playing drums. So, it was like, well, I could just play keys and sing, but that's actually harder than singing and playing guitar for me. So I picked the lesser of all of the evils and did that. And the first couple shows, it was like, oh, am I really doing this? This is super weird. But after a while, I mean, it never stops being weird because I'm just still not used to it. And even though it's been, however long, 4 years since we played our first show, like, it's always going to be weird for me because, I spent 24 years behind a drum kit.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, I'd watched some live videos of you guys and you playing even, you'll switch between the keys and the guitar? Like, was that
Yeah.
learning curve like tough to do all three things like they're in a short span of time?
Yeah, well, you just have to utilize a mute button. Mute button. So I actually have a like an AB box on my pedal board, and I actually run my keys through my amp now. I didn't used to, but I run my keys through my amp now. Just because I felt like I couldn't get the sound guys were just messing everything up. So I was like, you know what, this is what I'm doing. So there is a kill switch on, it's an ABY box. So there is a kill switch, which is pretty cool. So I can, or you can just switch back and forth by hitting a button, which is super nice. So it turns off my guitar, so I don't have to worry about it, if that makes sense. Like rolling the volume off or anything like that. It's just like legit. You hit one button and it switches to keys, and then you hit the other button and it switches back to guitar, which is kind of cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Outside of the drums, what do you think, being a multi-instrumentalist, what do you think you excel at the most?
Oh, I am a drummer.
Well, no, I mean outside of the drums, all the other things.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know, not much. I mean, drums are my main instrument, right? So
Right.
like, and the other instruments that I play are just like, they're just kind of like a tool to write songs, if that makes sense. And that's kind of how I view them. They're just there to facilitate what needs to come out of my brain in order for me to get that song down. But I'm always thinking about drums first and foremost. But yeah, like, I mean, like, as I go along, you know, it becomes easier, right?
Right. What came first for you after the drums? Was it singing?
I was actually a singer way before I played guitar,
Okay.
or sorry, drums. I took vocal, like operatic vocal, when I was really super young. I think I was like in 5th or 6th grade. And I took that for about a year, which was great. So, and then later on in life, I ended up taking some more vocal lessons from a local guy here who also used to, or and still is, the singer from do you remember the band Helix?
Yes. Yeah.
So Brian, the singer from Helix, is a really amazing vocal teacher here in town, and he lives not that far from where I live, and he's a great vocal teacher and an all around swell human being, and he teaches a really cool technique called bel canto. But anyway, so I took vocal lessons from him for a while, which was super cool as well. But yeah, I guess probably vocals. And then I've always dabbled with like, I played piano since I was like 6.
Oh wow.
So there's that. But I stopped taking lessons. Like I only took lessons for like six years. I guess I stopped when I was 12 when I started playing drums. So, which the piano really helped me to be able to read music, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not like a ripper of a piano player or anything like that, but I feel like it just helped me to be able to understand music more than anything, and be able to read music a little better. I can't sight read anymore, which sucks because, you know, it's like a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it.
Oh yeah.
But to be honest with you, like guitar music, like tabs make sense to me, but guitar music doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay.
Like looking at it, like at guitar music, it doesn't make sense to me. Like it makes sense, like I understand what the notes are and stuff like that, but like transposing that onto the actual guitar, it's just like, I'm like, what is going on? Because you can play the same note in like 10 different places. It's just
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. Anyway.
Well, around that time when you were 12, was there a specific drummer that made you want to pursue the drums, or how did that come about?
I don't think that I really had like an idea or like a person that I was like, that person makes me want to play drums. I don't think I ever had that, but I feel like it it was so I think what kind of made me switch was, I was listening to heavier music and I was like, I want to be a rock band, I want to start a band. And my sister was playing guitar at the time, so I was like, I don't want to do that. So what is the next best thing is you go and you get a drum kit. So that's what I ended up doing. And I feel like it wasn't necessarily a person in general, but I feel like the band that probably is most responsible for me picking up the drums would probably be Silverchair.
Okay.
Because they were, around the same age as I was when I first, discovered them. They were only a couple years older than me. And we were kind of like, wow, if a bunch of 15-year-old boys can do it, then we can do that too. And then that's what we ended up doing.
Well, it's been now 20 years since Kittie's debut, like going from a teenager to an adult now, besides obviously the maturity part of it. What do you think you've gained over the past 2 decades as far as your musical career has been?
What have I gained? A large amount of distrust for humans. No, I don't know. I feel like I've learned so much about myself, and I've learned so much about people, and I've learned so much about how the world really works. And there's just, I don't even know what kind of a life I would have if I didn't have music and I didn't do what I did. I feel like my life would have been really boring. But I feel like I've just like, that's just been a part of who I am for so long that like, it would just be so strange not to have any of that and to, so I don't know. I've gained a lot my entire life, basically.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful for that too. Like considering, I've been in a band more than half my life.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy, right?
Right.
24 years.
Yeah, basically growing up in it, yeah.
Yeah. Like that's insane. Like I don't know a lot of people that have had those experiences, but I know that I'm definitely not normal, that's for sure.
Well, here's a question I'm sure you're probably tired of answering, but have you guys had any talks about the future of Kittie?
I know that we're lucky to have the experiences that we have had. And we had a really amazing time when we did that live in London show a couple years ago, where we brought, everybody back that wanted to come back. And we did like a travel through time with all the different members and stuff like that. So that was really cool. We had a lot of fun doing that. But at this point, like unless we got a really good offer, I don't know. I don't think we would do anything unless it was a really great offer and we could, include everyone in one fashion or another. And I think because at this point, we're kind of like one of those legacy bands, and I feel like it would probably really help, or it would be really cool if we could do something with some of the past members as well. Because right now we don't necessarily have any. I mean, besides my sister, myself, and Tara, it's just the three of us, right? Technically, in the band. But, and again, it's kind of hard for us to continue on without Trish, because, it would feel kind of weird not to have her there. So there's just a lot of stuff going on with that. But, you never know what might happen if we get if somebody, decides that they want to give us a good offer and it works out for us and is feasible for us and we're able to do it, I don't see why not, right?
Yeah, gotcha.
But at the same time, it's like, because we want to make sure that things are good for the fans as well, and we want to make sure that the people that are coming to the show are getting a good experience, because that might be the last time. So we don't want to shortchange anybody and have a lesser than experience, if that makes sense. We want to make sure that everybody that comes to a show gets blown away. So we kind of have to outdo ourselves.
Yeah, I like that. I like that philosophy.
See, there you go, right? It's important, but we'll see what happens. You never know. That the documentary is on Amazon Prime right now, and people are losing their mind. Our Instagram and our Twitter and all of our other social media has basically exploded since the documentary got added to Amazon Prime, I guess a month or two ago. So
that's awesome. Obviously, besides everything you're doing at the White Swan, and I'd read that you're a yoga instructor. How else have you been spending your personal time during this pandemic?
Well, not teaching yoga.
Okay. Well, yeah. I didn't think about that.
I'm also a spin instructor as well. So before the pandemic, it was I would work my regular job and then I would go teach for a couple hours at night, and I was working way too much. So this has actually been a really nice break for me, to not, break my neck and doing crazy stuff, the amount of crazy stuff that I was doing before. Yoga studios are back open, but I'm only teaching at 2 places right now, which is okay. I'm okay with that. And I'm not back teaching spin at all. So, which is also okay. So I just have my regular old job at a software company, and just kind of hang out and do that.
Is the yoga thing, is that more does it have a lot of restrictions and guidelines now, I would assume?
Yeah, so here we have a limit depending on space. I think it's 10 people are only allowed in the one studio that I teach at. It's a heated studio. We're not allowed to run fans. Oh. So the exhaust for the room, the exhaust fan, and it's a heated studio, so it's 100 degrees in there. So it's nice and toasty. Sometimes it gets hotter. But other than that, it's pretty much, it's just, I wear my mask when I teach. But you don't necessarily have to, especially because of the heat. So I believe the guidelines here are you have to wear your mask everywhere else except for when you're actually exercising or doing yoga or whatever you're doing.
Okay.
It's kind of weird, but I didn't make the rules. So, but I wear my mask all the time because I am a good girl.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I really enjoyed the Nocturnal Transmission EP, and I appreciate you taking the time with me today.
Hey, thank you so much for giving me a ring. And, I'm really glad you enjoy it. And I hope everybody that listens to it enjoys it as well.
There you go. Mercedes Lander of the White Swan of Kittie. Basically playing every instrument that you would imagine would be in any band. This woman plays it. So very cool to have her on here. Huge thank you to Liz from Earsplit PR for her continued support of this podcast. And a massive thank you to Mercedes Lander for taking the time there to talk to me about everything she's got going on. If this is your first time checking us out, we appreciate it. Let's see if we can remember these now. We've got probably more in the can than I think we've ever had at once, actually.
Yeah.
Of unreleased interviews that we've done over the past, 3 weeks now, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Probably as many or more since,
at least early pandemic.
Yeah. The early pandemic.
Yeah.
When I wasn't working. and you just
Started
took them all
slanging 'em out.
afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, since we recorded the one with Mercedes, we recorded one with Damon Johnson. He'll be back for a third time. We've recorded one with Donnie V, the voice of Enough's Enough. That was a cool one. We've recorded one with Blake Bedsall, who is the vocalist for Saul. They're a hot new band. Came out in the past couple years. If you listen to Sirius, I guarantee you've heard Saul at some point.
Yeah.
Let me think. What else we got? We've got a new one from Mitch Perry, who was just on this podcast, like you mentioned early at the beginning of the pandemic, basically, I think. Talked to him again. Then we've got one with Tyler Bryant, the phenomenal guitarist and vocalist of Tyler Bryant and Shakedown. Got to check them out live a couple years ago when they were opening for Clutch and Seven Dust.
That was great.
Yeah.
The whole show was great.
Yeah, love those diverse bills like that. And
Yeah, I can't wait for those again.
yeah, if you're not familiar with Tyler Bryant, dude's like straight up like blues rock, and it's just great music to just chill out to, and the guy's a phenomenal musician. We've also got, I know there's something else I'm forgetting.
Paige Hamilton.
There you go. Paige Hamilton of Helmet. That one was something that I've been hoping to have happen since we started this podcast,
Right.
I think.
And it was a good one.
Yeah, we got a good lengthy one with him, like almost an hour.
Yeah.
Same with Damon Johnson, that was almost an hour. Oh, and then just before we hit record on this, we recorded one with Mike Spreitzer, the guitarist from Devil Driver. And that was a great one as well. He talked about everything from the beginning of his time with Devil Driver 16 years ago to now. So some good stuff there as well. And like I mentioned early on, we've got the Eddie Van Halen tribute episode coming as well that features pretty much everyone I just mentioned, plus Mark Slaughter, Robin McCauley of McCauley Schenker Group and Black Swan. And then we've got Tony Asta from Battlecross and a few other people. So be looking on for that. That'll be episode 292 just next. And if you love the White Swan and that kind of stuff, we've had on Kirk Winstein from Crowbar a couple of times. We've had on two members of Superjoint, where we had Jimmy Bauer, who's also in I Hate God and Down. We had on Stephen Taylor, who's also in Phil's solo group, The Illegals. We've had on John Connolly from Seven Dust. We've had on Gene Simmons from Kiss. We've had on guys from Guns N' Roses, Battlecross, Shinedown, Megadeth, Testament, Death Angel. Long ass list. So dig through it all. TheThunderUnderground.com. You can listen there. You can see reviews there. At The Thunder Underground on YouTube. We've got a lot of videos that are separate from this podcast where we do reviews on albums. In fact, just mentioned Saul. Their new album's not out till next Friday, and we've already got a review up on that, so check that out. Then we've got Facebook, Twitter, all that great stuff. Find it on our website. Follow us and like us on everything you see. You can listen to us most everywhere podcasts are heard. And yeah, I think that covers it.
I think it does.
All right. Once again, thank you to Air Split PR, Mercedes Lander, Sunset Tattoo, Med Farm, Hell Hot Sauce, and DEB Concerts. And until next time.
Thunder Underground, y'all.